Chapter 13. The Passing of Arthur. Arthur returns Excalibur to the Lady of the Lake. Sir Bedivere carried King Arthur to a chapel that stood on a narrow strip of land. On one side lay the lake, and on the other lay the ocean. The moon was full. "I shall die before the morning," said King Arthur. "Take my sword Excalibur and throw it into the lake." Sir Bedivere took the sword sadly and walked to the lake. He looked at the sword and saw that it was beautiful. "It is too good to throw away," he thought. And so he hid the sword in the grass beside the lake and walked back to the wounded king. "What did you see?" Arthur whispered. "Nothing," said Sir Bedivere. "Go again and do as I told you," said King Arthur. Sir Bedivere went to the lake a second time and looked at the sword. "Who will remember King Arthur when this sword is lost?" he thought, and so he hid the sword a second time. "What did you see?" Arthur whispered. His voice was becoming weaker. "Nothing," said Sir Bedivere. Then Arthur was angry. "Does no one obey a dying king?" he asked. "Now, on your honor, go and do what I told you. This is my last request and final command." Then Bedivere went quickly to the lake. He took the sword and closed his eyes and threw Excalibur into the middle of the lake. When he looked, he saw the sword flash in the moonlight and fall towards the water. But the sword did not sink into the lake. A hand rose from the water. The hand was covered in white cloth. The hand caught the sword and waved it 3 times. Then the Lady of the Lake pulled the sword beneath the water. Bedivere ran back to the wounded king. Arthur looked at Bedivere's face. "I know that you have done what I commanded," he said. "Now carry me to the ocean shore, but be quick. I fear that I shall die." 3 queens carry Arthur to Avalon. Bedivere carried Arthur to the ocean shore. A boat appeared in the moonlight. It moved without wind, sails, or oars. 3 queens stood in the boat. It was decorated with rich red cloth. Bedivere laid Arthur on a bed of rich red cushions. The 3 queens wept. "Where will you go?" Sir Bedivere asked. Arthur answered slowly, "I am going a long way with these women. I am going to the island valley of Avalon. It is an isle of rest where winter never comes. There I will be healed of my wound and will rest and wait. And one day I shall come again, for Merlin called me the once and future king." "And where shall I go?" asked Sir Bedivere. "You shall travel through the world," said Arthur. "You shall tell of what you saw and what you heard, the stories of the knights of the Round Table. The stories shall be told until the ending of the world." Then the 3 queens sang a sad song as the boat moved away from the shore. The boat gleamed in the moonlight. The last of the nights. Bedivere walked back to the cold, bare hills. From the hills he looked across the water. He saw the boat. It was small but bright. The boat moved slowly towards the islands in the west. The islands were lost in the darkness of night, but the boat gleamed in the last light of the frosty moon. Bedivere watched for a long time. The moon faded. Behind him, dawn broke. Bedivere saw the last gleam of Arthur's boat in the first light of day. He heard a great shout of many voices, and then the gleam was gone. The hills were bare but bright as Bedivere began to walk towards the east, and the sun rose on a new day.